Well, here's an article that deals with the subject matter of, woke messaging and whatnot put into entertainment that I do agree with. They're not wrong. They're not exaggerating or lying or what have you here at Bounding in the Comics. They're not. They're pretty spot on here. But I see it a different way. And I talked about this on Doomcock's show on last Sunday night, his pop culture breakdown show. And we talked about Peacemaker, and I explained this. And when I did my own review, I was still kind of upset about it, because it's one of those things. It's like one of the cardinal rules I think should be there is to not push your audience out of your show or film. And this type of stuff can do that. But the series overall is pretty damn good. And one of the rare bright spots for DC. The only other one would have been the Snyder Cut. But anyway, that's another story. So here they're talking about that the butterflies. If you haven't seen the series, sorry, about to spoil pretty much everything. The plot was about these aliens who are these alien bugs, and they can take over humans. They enter through their mouths, their noses, and maybe their buttholes, and so take over their body, and then that's it. They control the body, and the human host is pretty much dead at that point. The body still functions and everything, but there's no human mind or brain in it anymore. It's just the bug operating it, and that's what they were doing, and they did it to quite a few characters in the story and all that. And so the leader of the butterflies, ultimately there's a confrontation between the leader and Peacemaker. And the plot revolved around this cow that they brought with them from their alien world that produces their only food source. So here's the alien queen took over the body of this police detective. That's her partner seeing her and thinks she's dying or whatever. And she says, "No, I'm fine," but it's really the alien took it over and all that. So she tells Peacemaker that their planet was dying, so they sought out another planet to take over, and they came upon the Earth, and so they were set about their plan to take it over. And then they discovered that humanity is just as much a danger to their planet as we were to ours. And they don't, the climate change is destroying it, and if we don't save the world from them, they'll destroy it. So we actually have a noble cause of what they're doing. Well, you didn't care about killing God knows how many people to take over their bodies or anything. You didn't offer or ask for any help or anything. So there's really nothing great about this speech. It's really awful, and it is from the mouth of the villain. But then they bring up this Variety interview of why he went on about this. And so he was talking about, like Marvel's Thanos. I wanted to have a layered motivation to it, not just I want to conquer and that's it. He thought that was, too stale and simple and all that sort of thing. It's not necessarily they needed a new world. They decided they'd take ours. You could leave it at that, but whatever. But so it's not just an offline out of the villain, because, Peacemaker later on seems to think that she had a point, and so it's clearly, James Gunn is in agreement with Goff here, the leader of the Butterflies. And I wanted the Butterflies to be characters that were multi-layered, as the characters were, and I think that Goff, in particular, as leader of the Butterflies, is a character who I like a lot and found really interesting. She's very much like Peacemaker. Now, this is something Doomcock pointed out that he thought was in the narrative, and that's what the point I make. I think overall, the narrative in Peacemaker's journey, there's some credibility to what he does and how it turns out. And in the end, there's a peaceful moment. The butterfly loses the human host body, but it's still a butterfly, and shows up at Peacemaker's trailer house. And instead of smashing it, he decides to feed it. He still has some of the alien amber liquid stuff, syrup stuff they feed on. Don't know how long that's going to last. Didn't seem like he had a lot of it left, but nevertheless, that's what he did, and that's part of the scene of his going from just I'm going to kill everybody to achieve peace. Like there is in the graveyard. And also the alien perhaps did, because the alien was hesitant to just outright kill Peacemaker, because early on in the series, he captured the bug and kept it in a jar for a while. And, through that, the bug got to know him. That's part of the creative crazy crap that goes on. It's funny and all that, but it worked narratively, what happened between the two of them. But of course, this business of climate change and all that, and so he goes on, and of course, Peacemaker's supposed to be this alt-right idiot, and that's how he sees anything, and of course anything that opposes his leftist Democratic Party viewpoint of the world is all right. That's all there is to it. He's very myopic in that point, and so actually exposes more of his ignorance in all of this than anything else. So he says, "Well, we made the show while vaccines were starting up. I mean, there's so much anti-science out there. Anti-climate change to me is the really big thing." But he doesn't understand it and doesn't know anything about it. If he did, he'd make a better defense than that. Believing that climate change is not affected by humankind, that's anti-science. Not really. To say there's no effect or influence or what have you would be akin to saying there's no humanity at all. So, yeah, there's going to be some impact. But the idea that it's utterly at the behest of humanity to stop climate change. The climate is supposed to change. It always has. It's a very simplistic means by which to address this. He doesn't really address it at all. He just throws it around to slap people he doesn't like and doesn't really have an argument, which again exposes his ignorance, not theirs. And of course, vaccinations he knows nothing about. So it's, does it derail the show in total? No, it doesn't. There's a lot of good work done in layering the character, even though he's a parody of superhero characters. I don't think Vigilante really was that, but for what it was within its own context, the show worked. These are not well-known characters, and so he probably had a more free hand at it. Although the DC Comics version of Peacemaker, at least the ones I've read, he is one messed up guy. He's not Captain America. He's so in some ways the TV show version is a more sympathetic character than that crazy thing. But so that he didn't reference the source material in total. No, he didn't. There's a lot of changes, but they also reflect what DC Comics had established in a lot of ways. So it's, I can't fault him on that. But this business here of, yes, he did do this. He did put that in there. Oh yeah, the Facebook memes. That's what changed people. People really believe it. It's like that. That's this idiocy that's what got Trump elected, was Facebook memes. Is just, I talk about anti-science or anti-sanity. It's just ridiculous. And then he goes on about the mass cause harm is just ridiculous. Now, I mean, you are limiting your intake of oxygen than you ordinarily would if you didn't have it on. And this business of putting children in it when they really, they're not at risk. You're not. So he doesn't know any of this. That's what I mean about it. He's not giving a list of factual data up on healthcare and whatnot. Certainly, and this aspect, because he doesn't really know it. He just wants to feel like he's mentally or intellectually rather superior to people he just doesn't like, and it's bigoted. But this is just aspects of his idiocy. What he's good at is forming these shows and creating these things that are entertaining. He's very entertaining. He can be funny. And he did make some rather deep narratives here for these characters. They're very well thought out, and there are layers to him. I don't mean just slapping on a motivation about climate change rather than we need a planet to live on. Because the Thanos thing doesn't work either if you actually think about it, but don't hold your breath on that happening over at Marvel. But anyway, nevertheless, he only hurts himself with this nonsense, unless, of course, people just already lock, stock, and barrel right with him on it. But it makes up the point about the silliness people believe on Facebook or what, that he was taken down by Twitter. He really wasn't. A lot about what happened. He got fired from Marvel, sorta. He was invited back. He will finish the Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I think he's probably already done it, or at least wrapping it up, as and all that stuff. That doesn't happen for most canceled people. And at the time this happened, he was one of these that was, calling on for Roseanne Barr to be fired and all this sort of stuff over Donald Trump. They didn't really care about what she tweeted and all that. And then lo and behold, someone went and found some stuff he had done, and it was all nasty and everything. I don't think he should have been fired either, but he was. But the door was still open for him. So, and then has he done anything about that? No. Is he asking for Roseanne Barr to be? No. So he's in a much more privileged position than her, because, well, his politics reflect the powers that be. So that's what that is. So do I feel sorry for him in any of that aspect? No. All I praise about him is his skill and talent, which he does have, and he performed well, and he produced a little hit here for DC, which is in desperate need of it. And so there's some little rumblings about, well, will he become more of the captain of the ship of DC? And at this point, yeah, I give it to him. The scuttlebutt is that he has his pick of characters. He can't touch Wonder Woman, giggle tee, Superman, or Batman. Batman, of course, is in the hands of Matt Reeves at the moment, and it's not even a part of the DCEU. It would have been interesting. They could have given him a Batman to do for the DCEU, a separate entity, as it were, since they're supposedly embracing their multiverse. A little late, since apparently Marvel has got to jump on that as well. But and Superman, I don't know. At one point, I believe that the rumor was, I think he confirmed it, that they offered him Superman, and he turned it down. He thought, probably rightly, that Suicide Squad was more his speed. But then again, I see possibilities there that, if not outright directing it, he might have a better eye for talent that could take over that and kind of, like I said, be the captain of the ship sort of thing. And ultimately, they're in desperate search for their Feige for DC, and they've gone through a couple of candidates. But so right now, he seems to have some amount of sway there. Now they seem to like him. All that. Now the leadership is in the midst of change because of the merger, so we'll see how that works out. But he's given them a product that people want and is successful, so that puts him in a much better position for that sort of thing. And I, at this point, wouldn't have any problem with it. I can't stand his politics. He doesn't know what he's talking about in that, but he knows how to put on a good show. And if he sticks more to that and stop trying to convince the world that he's so much more brilliant than everyone else in the room on these matters he knows nothing about, and sticks to what he does know, I think he would do a lot better. But if it's going to be some dumb little speech here and there in one show that's, oh God, but the rest of it's solid, I guess that's as good as it's going to get, So yeah, Bounding the Comics is not wrong here, and James Gunn is wrong, but he still delivered a pretty damn good show. And yeah, Warner Brothers should be looking very seriously at seeing what other projects, if he wants to be in that position. It's kind of a tough thing to do as well, especially when all you want to do is make stories and whatnot. But he certainly could be someone. Maybe he could be the kingmaker who would be that, and that kind of thing. But certainly the guy to look at is the possible architect for this sort of thing. There's other projects he could do. A Lobo series would be excellent in his hands. On the show, on Dukak's show, it was suggested Green Lantern might be a good thing because the science fiction elements he did in Guardians, and maybe that's true too. But yeah, I would have no problem with that. So, well, I'm sure I'd have problems with some of his little messages in there. But if that's all it is, then it's better than what I'm hearing, what they appear to be offering with, all-female Trinity or whatever and this sort of thing. And God knows whatever they're throwing at the wall to stick. But perhaps they'll just take notice that Peacemaker got thrown to the wall and he's stuck. So, yeah, I think it'd be wise to take a look at that. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness. So many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.